Now we're getting reports that Syria's military has begun an offensive against the rebel-held town of Qusair. Activists say at least 32 people have been killed. There's been fierce fighting in the area for months. Government forces have been seen shelling the town, aided by Syrian planes and artillery. Qusair is considered important because it lies between Damascus and the Mediterranean coast. Now we can cross to Nisreen El-Shamale, who is in Oman in neighboring Jordan. Nisreen, could you tell us more about this offensive?
Well, Fawzia, we're hearing from activist groups, as you mentioned, that since the early hours of the morning, Syrian troops backed by fighters from Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is a staunch ally of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, have been raiding this town and heavily bombarding it. And it is clear that the Syrian government is adamant about regaining control of Al-Qusair because, as you mentioned, it is very important. Now, let's remember that the first armed rebels appeared in the province of Homs. We were hearing about clashes in Homs before we heard about them in any other province in Syria. So Homs is extremely important for the Syrian government. Having control of Homs is very imperative. Homs is considered the backyard of Damascus. It's very close to Assad's seat of power. And we've seen in recent months that the military has changed its strategy. Instead of going after lost territory in the north and trying to regain it, it's actually focusing the battle and concentrating all its resources on Damascus, the capital, and as well in Homs. And we're hearing that they are getting help from neighboring Lebanon, from Hezbollah, as I mentioned, which is a very staunch ally of Damascus. And we're getting reports of at least 32 people killed, including rebels in Homs, and that the rebels are calling for more help and more weapons to try to face the Syrian government. It seems like a very heavy offensive that could turn into a ground assault, according to activists.
Bashar al-Assad has indeed been boosting his defense strategies. Let's just give us an idea here. If the Assad regime is able to take over Qusair, is this a psychological win or is this a strategic win in terms of military terms?
It's a very strategic win, Fawzia, as you mentioned, and as I said, Homs is very close to Damascus. It also lies on that highway that connects Damascus to the Mediterranean coast in Syria, which is mainly the heartland of Alawites. Those are still loyal to Bashar al-Assad, so they don't want to see that route cut off by rebels controlling Al-Qusair. And as I mentioned, Hezbollah fighters from Lebanon are assisting the Syrian troops, and in some reports I read, they even said that they're leading this battle. Now, Hezbollah, according to many observers and military analysts, is playing a very controversial role, and it's also worrying Israel, which we know has already launched 3 attacks on Syria in recent months. And we've just heard in new reports that Syria has put on standby its most advanced domestically made Tishreen missiles with orders to hit Tel Aviv in Israel if Israel launches another strike on Syrian soil. We've also heard an Israeli official in these media reports say that and warn Bashar al-Assad, the president, that if he launches an attack on Israel, the consequences will be crippling.
Nisreen, thank you for that update. Nisreen El-Shamale, our correspondent, speaking to us in Amman.